Hi, good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm Shannon, Pestun Senior Advisor for Financing and Business Services at the Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub. And I'm also the founder and CEO of Pestun Consulting, a company that focuses on closing Canada's entrepreneurship gender gap. It's my pleasure to welcome you here today for the part 2 of our series on demystifying incorporation. This has been a 2-part workshop series that explores the why and how to incorporate your business. Before we begin, I would like to first acknowledge that I'm speaking from the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Nations, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai. I also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 territory of Southern Alberta. Today we have participants joining us from across Canada, and I'd like us all to take a moment to recognize the many traditional lands on which we are connecting and acknowledge with gratitude and respect the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps were first to mark these lands. Our community at the Women's are committed to the advancement of women's entrepreneurship. As part of the Government of Canada's Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy, we operate in both English and French and bring research, best practices, and practical learning to our community, all with the goal to increase access to financing, talent, networks, and expertise for women entrepreneurs across the country. Through our 10 regional hubs, our network includes over 150 organizations and reaches more than 100,000 women entrepreneurs. As part of our community, I invite you to join us in our online communities and engage with this conversation and others in the weeks ahead. Be sure to use the hashtag WEKH. And if you're not already following us on Twitter, you can find us at WEKH_PCFE. You can also find us on LinkedIn. Our webinar today continues on the subject of incorporation and has been designed with both women entrepreneurs and the organizations that support them in mind. Last week, we introduced the importance of incorporation and the importance of corporate structure, and specifically looked at incorporation. With the help of our experts, we dove deeper into the legal, financial, and tax impacts that come with incorporation and how incorporation can open doors to programs and supports, including financing. If you weren't able to join us last week, you can still see what we covered by accessing the recording, which is up on our YouTube channel. We'll also be recording today's session, and that recording will also be accessible. As well, all participants who registered today will receive an email from us that will include additional tools and resources that are relevant to this subject. Today, we're diving into the second part of the workshop, where we'll look more closely at the federal incorporation process itself and how entrepreneurs can incorporate their companies on their own. We're very pleased to have with us Mr. Lacelle of Corporations Canada, who is going to walk us through what this process looks like in a step-by-step tutorial. Before I introduce Martin, I want to share with you why we're focused on the topic of incorporation. From our recent research, published State of Women's Entrepreneurship Report, we find key differences between men and women as entrepreneurs. One of the differences is that women are much less likely than men to incorporate their companies, which means that against the entrepreneurial landscape, women-led businesses are more likely to be found as partnerships in public or nonprofit organizations or as an unincorporated entity. According to the Government of Canada, only 16% of Canadian small and medium-sized businesses are owned by women, and incorporation is one of the key ways that we can start closing this gap. But more than this, how a company is structured can also be a catalyst or a barrier when accessing some of the programs and supports that are available to business owners. For example, some of the programs are only available if you are incorporated. As we talked about last week, one of the most important decisions a business owner can make is how to legally structure their business. For entrepreneurs, corporate structure is critical as it impacts many things, from how you pay yourself to what growth strategies you can undertake, as well to how you distribute your profits and protect your assets. And for service providers, knowing how structures can impact the entrepreneur, it's important that we understand things like how the process works, what the advantages are, and even what the disadvantages might be. These considerations are critical knowledge pieces that ensure we're providing women entrepreneurs with the right advice at the right time. As we heard last week, one of the barriers to selecting an incorporation is that the process is perceived to be complex, costly, and often very time-consuming. As we look to demystify some of the myths around incorporation, we are very fortunate to have Monsieur Martin Lacelle with us to do a live demonstration on how the federal incorporation process works. We're also fortunate to have returning with us our experts from last week who will lend their voices as well to the question and answer period, and we'll talk about the impacts of incorporation from their different perspectives. As we move through the presentation, I encourage you to take notes and ask questions in our chat. We will be monitoring the questions and moderating them, and we'll get to them in the Q&A section. This is a unique event that brings many professionals together, and I'd like to thank our partners who helped make this workshop possible, including BDC, Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada, Corporations Canada, and McCarthy Tétrault. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce our panelists today. First, joining us for the facilitated session is Martin Lacelle. Martin is a project officer. He currently manages a project to modernize the training of new Corporations Canada employees, as well as a number of other small projects. Martin joined Corporations Canada in 2019 as an information and services officer, where he has gained a wealth of knowledge about the incorporation process. Martin has a degree in group facilitation from the St. Paul University in Ottawa. Through his career, he has developed an expertise in training and facilitation by working in the community sector, the private sector, and the public service. Aliya Ramji. Aliya helps startups seize opportunities, navigate challenges, and grow into highly successful businesses. She's a partner at McCarthy Tétrault and co-founder of MT Ventures, a wholly owned division of the firm. Based in Toronto, Aliya delivers tailored legal advice and other strategic value to high potential businesses in the startup and scale-up phase. She also advises angel and strategic investors, as well as parties looking to create strategic alliances or partnerships with founders or startups. Laura Didyk. Laura is the Vice President and National Lead for Women's Entrepreneurs at BDC. Laura has always been passionate about entrepreneurship and has worked with all types of entrepreneurs at all stages of their businesses, helping them access the advice and the capital they need to grow and succeed. Through her vast experience, Laura consistently saw one gap, that being a lack of women. As an ally and advocate for female business owners and leaders, Laura drives the bank's mandate to support women entrepreneurs across the country. Stefanie Ricchio. Stefanie is a CPA, CGA. She's also a published author, professor, and the founder of The Modern Accountant, where she focuses on providing businesses consulting that supports through the modernization of accounting for businesses through the implementation of tools, resources, and training programs to support change management and increasing efficiencies. Thank you all for being with us again today. And Martin, before I go any further, I'm going to just let you take it away. And I know that Martin was having some challenges with his technology, and I just want to see if he is back with us. Are we still waiting for Martin?
No, I'm right here.
Martin, welcome. I'm so happy that you're back. So we're going to put the camera on you. I know there's nothing more fun than getting an update to restart your computer 5 minutes before we're supposed to go on. So happy to see you here.
Yes, absolutely. And to be quite honest, I just realized that there is something else in our equipment that is not working right now. So it seems to be the day for that, but we're going to find we're just going to find a workaround. So I'm just going to ask you to bear with me as we explain those workarounds for us. It seems to be one of those days.
No problem. No problem. Well, welcome.
Okay. So are we good to go, Shannon?
You bet. We are good to go.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Yeah, so if you can just bear with me 1 second. We were just trying to get this little thing settled over here. So if you can, I'm just going to click on that little button and take it away. Can anyone give me a thumbs up if you see, do you see a Google web page?
We are good, Bertin.
Yep, you see the Google page?
You bet.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So this is exactly what we're going to do this afternoon. So as we already, so basically, as we already established, last week, for those of you who were there last week, it was really about why should we be incorporating. And this time around, we're going to have a look at how do I actually incorporate. So we're going to take it from scratch, from absolutely zero to getting a full-blown incorporation. Now, first, this is why I took you, first of all, to the Google page, because this is, if you get on the Google page and you're not sure where to go from there, that's usually what we tell people to do. You go to Google and you're going to type in corporations, Canada, home, corporations, Canada, home. You click on the enter button or you click on the search button, and you'll notice that one of the first hits that you're going to get in your search results is going to say Home Corporations Canada Online Filing Center. So that's what you're looking for. You're going to click on that, and that is to take you to going to take you to our homepage.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I was just on our website doing all kinds of research because I was like you were mentioning, Shannon, I'm developing training materials, so I was on that very website this morning, and it was working perfectly and it was very quick, as a matter of fact. So it's one of those things. Why don't you bring up some of these questions, Shannon, in the meantime, so that at least we can clarify a few things, and when the site is back up, then we can go through a quick demo.
Perfect. I think that's a great question. And I believe this one came up in our last group, but we were in small tables at that point in time. But I know recently I incorporated my company and I did it in the province of Alberta. And Ellen's asking a question that I had asked as well. And that is, when should I incorporate federally or when provincially?
Okay, well, that really depends on your particular situation, and this is where, so I'm going to give you the answer that I would usually give to people who give us a call on the contact center, that there are advantages to doing both. The first thing that I would check is, are you actually a member of a professional order or a professional associations? Because I have seen instances of people calling us in the call center saying, well, I've incorporated federally, but now I have to go provincial because my professional order has told me that I have to be provincial, and I've seen it the other way around. I've incorporated provincially, but now my professional order is telling me that if I'm going to incorporate, I have to do it federally. So I think that if you are a member of a professional order, like, I don't know, physiotherapist, pharmacist, or like anything along chiropractor or anything along those lines, you just might want to double check with your professional order. So that would be the first thing that I would check. The second thing is, how exactly are you going to be using that corporation? So if you're looking to have a corporation where you want to have clients across Canada, if you think you're going to have some international clients, the advantage of being federally incorporated means that your name is going to, if you decide to have a name, not just a numbered name like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Canada Inc., but really go with a name like, you know, Martin's Guitar Shop, Swami's Guitar Shop, or something like that, then it will be protected across Canada. And it also gives you that extra international recognition. Beyond that, I would actually pass the torch here to Aliya, because I think that from a law perspective, she might be able to provide us with a bit more information.
Sure. Thanks, Martin. I think the answer is it depends, just like Martin said. And so, the first one he said was, if you're a professional organization or a professional type of entity versus a commercial entity. The other part of that is where you're planning to do business. And so if you're planning to do business across the country, and you start with a provincial incorporation, then you have to apply to do business in the other provinces. Or if you do business, if you incorporate federally, you'll still have to do those applications, those registrations. But at the same time, you will be in a better position to do so. The other side of that is that when you're incorporating federally versus provincially, you want to think about, you know, the filing fees, what will apply to you, what kind of paperwork there is to be done. And so you want to think about all of those things before you decide whether you want to go federally or provincially.
Thanks for that answer, Aliya. And we do have some other questions here. If a person holds both a Canadian and a US citizenship, are there potential downsides to incorporating? Great question. Aliya, I might start just seeing if you have a gut response on that one.
My gut response is that, you know, it's really a tax question and how your taxes will be affected, I would think. So I defer to Stefanie on this one.
I was thinking the same thing. I mean, high level, I've never actually ran through that situation myself, but the first thing that comes to mind, and we touched a little bit on it last week, was, you know, when you decide maybe to sell the shares in your company, you know, how's that going to affect you from a tax perspective? So I think that definitely before you go down the road of having both, you know, shares of a corporation that's Canadian that you own and shares of a corporation that's American or US that you own, probably consult with, you know, a tax accountant proper to really get the best feedback on that one possible, because there will be tax implications when those shares get sold or the business is wound up. So it's a matter of figuring out which jurisdiction you'll be liable to the taxes for.
And one little thing that we have to keep in mind too, when it comes to a business corporation registered at the federal level, you need to have at least one director. If you have less, it's 25% of your entire board of directors have to be Canadian residents. And if you have less than 4, at least one. So if you have 3 directors, 2 directors, one of them has to be a Canadian resident. So that's the one thing. So it's not so much whether it's a downside or a upside, but it is a requirement under the Canada Corporations Act, Canada Business Corporations Act.
Thank you. This question is coming from Aaron, and Aaron's asking, if your business is a retail business and you may have people from outer provinces purchasing on your website, does that constitute doing business in another province?
Shannon, I'll start with that one. And again, it depends. And so it depends on whether you're selling a product or a service. It depends on where the service or the product is being delivered. So there's a lot of different questions around that and whether that counts as doing out of province sales. So again, you know, if you're in that kind of situation, do consult with someone, a lawyer and an accountant, because they will be able to tell you how to best protect yourself in that situation. Thanks,
Aliya. Stefanie, have you got anything to add on that one?
She hit the markers right on the head. It depends on where the goods are that you're being sold, if it's inventory that you're moving or whether or not it's a service. So it really depends on what that location of origin is going to be to determine where your actual province of residence is.
Thank you. There's a question around the $30,000 threshold after which you need a GST number. Does that include international income as well?
You wouldn't be charging anyone outside of Canada GST or HST. So it's 30,000 is based on your local revenue.
Sounds great.
Yeah, sure.
A question has come in with respect, can you incorporate with only one director?
Yes, absolutely. it's really up, like you will determine when you incorporate, unless you choose a basic incorporation, which has a fixed minimum and maximum number of directors. You can choose to have only one director. You're the one who's going to set the minimum number of directors and the maximum number of directors, unless we're talking about a distributing corporation. So a corporation who will definitely be issuing shares on the stock market and that sort of thing, then you would need 3. But other than that, yes, a private corporation could incorporate with 1 director. Aliya, Stefanie, do you have anything to add to that?
So again, it depends on your province. That in some provinces require directors than others. So again, Corporations Canada or the federal incorporation may only require 1, whereas Ontario, for example,
Thanks for your answers on this one here. There's a question that's come in. When should nonprofits consider moving from an organization status to an incorporated nonprofit? And that's not, that might, sorry, Aliya, go ahead.
I was going to say that's a tough question because I'm not an expert in the not-for-profit space. And so I would suggest, especially in that space, there are particular law firms that really focus on the not-for-profit space and particular lawyers that focus on the not-for-profit space. And I would consult with the experts on that one.
Thank you.
And sorry, and I just want to add to that one if I can, Shannon. In similar fashion, accounting for a not-for-profit is different than accounting for a profit firm or organization. So similarly, you would want to make sure you find someone who has that background and experience in not-for-profit.
Thanks, Stephanie. That's a really great point. I know that we're having some questions sort of that are surfacing from last week, and I'm wondering, you know, Martin or Yasmin, if we can see if the Corporations Canada site is up. I'm thinking that we might want to postpone at this point and try and reconvene. I think a lot of the questions that are coming in were answered in part 1, where we can
actually we have what we call in our internal jargon here a mock-up. So it's something that looks pretty much, it's like a fake version of our website, and it's pretty much the same thing as the actual website. So I think that we can try doing it with that one, and I think that should be working. We were able to come up with that. So I suggest that we give it a try. If we see that we encounter more hiccups, then maybe we can reconvene, but I think that we can pull it through. Is that okay, Shannon?
Absolutely okay. Thanks. We appreciate how difficult it is to pivot at this, you know, right when we're right in the game. So thank you for being agile, and to those who have stayed with us on the call, thank you too. And Martin, I'm going to give it right back over to you to take it over.
Thank you very much, Shannon. So I just want to make sure, can you see my screen? You should see Online Filing Center at the top and 2 big blue buttons. Can you see that?
You bet.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So remember where we left off, I said there's the lady with the orange sweater. You click on that picture and it brings you to the Online Filing Center, which is the place where you're going to go in the first place to incorporate. Now, it's hard to miss. As you can see, it says Online Filing Center at the top. You see these big 2 blue buttons over here, and therefore, we're going to click on Incorporate for $200, and that's going to bring me to the next step. Now, when I get to the next step, I need to make a choice. So, and it's interesting because we were just having a question about not-for-profit. So this is where we're going to choose. Do I want to have a business corporation, or do I want to have a not-for-profit corporation? So in this, for the purpose of this presentation, we're choosing a business corporation. Now, we have to be careful here because there's 2 options. The first one is basic incorporation. Basic incorporation is nice because it's the quickest and easiest way. Okay, it's going to give you a certain set of preset articles of incorporation that are fairly commonly used. The only thing about the basic incorporation is that you cannot have a name. So if you want to have, you know, Martin's Coffee Shop, for instance, well, that's not going to be possible when you choose basic incorporation. You're just going to get a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Canada Inc. So for the purpose of this demo, we're really actually going to choose our custom incorporation, which allows you to have a bit more leeway in your articles of incorporation and to choose a specific name for your corporation. So I choose custom incorporation. I click on the next button. And then I'm going to get to the first screen. Now, once we get to the first screen, you're going to see at the top, it's going to tell you where you're at in the incorporation process. And you're going to be able also to see this on the right side of the screen. So it's taking a little longer to, okay, there we go. So custom incorporation, so we have that over here. And notice on the right side, the incorporation steps. So if you're wondering, okay, well, I'm not sure, how long do I have to go? Where am I in that whole process? You can actually see exactly where you are on the right side of your screen. Okay, so we start with the contact information. So as you can see, I've done this demo before. So my name is there, telephone number. You're going to put in your email address. You're going to confirm your email address. There we go. Just give me 1 second. At canada.ca. Usually it shows up automatically, but that's okay. There we are. Okay. Now, again, under corporate name options, I can choose whether I want to have a word name or a number name. So like we said, just for the purpose of this demonstration, I want to make sure that I have a word name. So I'm just going to go click on that. Now, I have two options. The second one, I'm going to start with the second one so that we can get it out of the way right away. Use name already approved by Corporations Canada. At the Online Filing Center, some people like to get their name pre-approved before they start the whole incorporation process. And that's definitely something that we can do. Now, for the purpose of this demonstration, we really want to take it from beginning to end. So we're going to pretend that I don't have a name selected or pre-approved at all. So I'm going to select the first option, which is to propose a name. Now you see this blue label here that says an additional $13.80. Why is it saying that? Because when I suggest a name for my corporation, there's got to be a name search that's going to be done in a specific database, okay? And that has an additional cost, which is $13.80. And that's why you're seeing that over there. So good to go, ready to propose my name. I'm going to click on that next button, and it's going to take me to the page where I can actually propose the name. And you'll see that it's fairly easy to propose the name, and there's just a few steps that we need to go through, and we're going to clarify this for us. There's one thing also that I want to mention. Okay, I'll get back to that later since we have our page load up. So again, tells me where I am at. Step 1.1, corporate name. Awesome. So what is the name that I want to propose? So I'm going to call this Redwood. Let's say Redwood Coffee Shop. Okay. Now, the second thing that I have to do is that I have to identify which part of my name is actually distinguishing my business from other businesses. Okay. Now, anytime you're going through that incorporation process, if you're not sure of what we're asking you, try to locate those little blue dots with the eyes in them. And you notice when my cursor goes up there, there's actually a label that appears that says show information. Every time you see this, you can click and you can get some extra information. And I just want to get back to what Aliya and Yasmin and the rest of our panels were mentioning last week, that the first step when you incorporate is to read the information that's available. And there's a lot on our website, and there's a lot on the provincial websites if you decide to go the provincial route as well. Now, if you're in the middle of the process here and you're not sure, click on that little button, get more information, and in this case, you also get some examples of what a distinguishing name. So the name that distinguishes your business, okay, it's not coffee shop in this case, because these are just regular words, lots of coffee shops, but mine is going to be called Redwood, and that's why it's going to be different. So this is going to be what distinguishes my business. Just before we go further with the that distinguishing name, Aliya, do you have anything to add to that part of the process?
I would just say that there are some names that are so so uncommon or so distinguished that you might want to trademark those names. And so really think about how you name your business. For example, something like Nike is a very distinguished type mark, and you probably don't want to use that in a Nike coffee shop because it's a misrepresentation of your particular coffee shop. And if you are trying to be the next Starbucks or trying to be the next Second Cup, that you might want to trademark that. So really think about what your name is, and also consider how you name a company and whether you are inadvertently suggesting that you are correlated with someone else. So for example, if you are opening up Gretzky's coffee shop, then you might inadvertently be trying to associate that, not intentionally, but inadvertently, with Wayne Gretzky, and there might be some ramifications to that. So just make sure that you've really thought through what the name of your business is.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Aliya. So is there any other members of our panel who would like to add anything to that, or should we just keep going?
You know what, Martin, because I see the words business activity up there, I just want to really quickly let everyone know that when you're, going through the motions and incorporating a business, when you file your taxes, you do have to define what the business activity is for the corporation. And what's really important here is that the CRA is very particular about when they allow losses from business. And if for 5 years, for example, you run a retail type business, for example, and you accumulate business losses, but you decide in year 6 to do an entirely different pivot, and perhaps you've incorporated under a name, and you just decide to continue forward to use that same corporation name for a completely different type of business having nothing to do with retail, you actually can't take those losses from those first 5 years and transfer or apply them to a new type of business activity. The CRA is very particular about allowing losses, especially when you change your business activity. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because you had that up on the screen.
Absolutely. Well, and thank you very much for mentioning that. So when it comes to business activity in this particular case, it really is for the name search. So what we're trying to do here is to have the most accurate search results, but that's also a really good thing to keep in mind about the CRA, of course. Now, so what I'm going to do here, so I'm going to say, well, it's a coffee shop. So let's see what happens when I just type in coffee. Usually I'm going to have, I think this is because it's a mock-up. I'm not going to dwell anymore on that because this is a different, this is more like a demonstration website than the actual real thing, okay? When it happens in real life, however, when you fill that part of the website up, you're going to see some business options appearing, okay? They're predetermined. If you don't see exactly the type of business that you're intending to open, don't worry about it. Just pick the one that is closest to what you're trying to do, okay? Now, once we have that in mind, we're just going to click search. And it's going to bring us to that name search database, and it's going to show us if there are any other businesses that has the same name. So while we're waiting for this to load, just a few more pieces of information about this. So this is where you can determine if you see that there is already a Redwood coffee shop 2 blocks away from where you want to open yours. This is where it might be a good idea to consider a different name. Okay, we cannot tell you. If you give us a call in our contact center, we're not gonna, we don't provide here at Corporations Canada legal advice. All right, it's really up to people like Aliya to do that for you. But we are going to be honest with you that it's really hard for our examiners to accept a name that is already the exact same thing that is already being used somewhere else. This Yasmin is a much more of an expert with that particular version of the website than I am. Yasmin, have I done anything to create that lapse here, or is there anything else that I should be doing?
It might be that you took too long, Martin.
Okay.
Maybe try refreshing.
Refreshing? Okay, we can do that. And once again, I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for this. This, like we mentioned, this is like a mock-up. This is a demo version that was created and not the actual original website. So this is why it's not working exactly the same way. But from your end, from your perspective, you're pretty much going to see the same options. Oh, I'm back. Okay, so let's just do it very, very quickly with no extra explanations. Okay, so I'm just going to go back. So we said Redwood Coffee Shop. I said the name, what distinguishes my business, right? What makes it different from other businesses? In this case, it's Redwood. I'm going to click on the search button. Oh, well, look at that. It's just showing me a blank screen. Okay, to be quite honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the end of the world at this point, because what we really want to do is get to the rest of the incorporation process. Once you will have entered your the name in the database, what you will see appearing is a whole bunch of names that are similar to yours. And if you, like I said before, if you see a name that is exactly the same thing, or is like super similar, like, you know, Redwood Tea Shop or anything along those lines, then it might be a good time to start thinking, is it a good idea to use that name, or should I consult a lawyer, or should I maybe just suggest a different name for my business? Yasmin, is there a way for me to just skip that part and go to the articles of incorporation directly?
Yeah, so normally as long as you enter, so click on search and just see, because it is working on my end. So maybe try it once more.
Okay, well, we'll try it once more, and then you can just, you can be my keyboard for the day.
No problem.
All right, so let's do that, Redwood. Okay. Search. Yep, it's not letting me go anywhere. So why don't you share your screen with us, Yasmin, and we can just take it from your computer, and I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, no problem. Let me just make sure that it is working, because I tested it, it's working. I think it's actually it's not just on your end now. See, it came up 2 seconds ago. Now it's not working on my end either.
Okay. At this point, should we follow Shannon's suggestion and perhaps reconvene at a later time where we can actually give a decent demo?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not. It's so bizarre. 2 seconds ago it worked. Now it's not letting me go through. Oh,
thank you.
Okay. I do. It is working now, but it's up to you guys.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So okay, let me share the screen on my end, and I'll just be your keyboard, Martin. Okay.
Okay, no problem at all.
I certainly appreciate you guys being so agile here. I know that this is difficult. You're rolling with the punch as well, and we're all supporting here, knowing how what this would feel.
Yes, and I want to tell anyone too, it's kind of a good thing in a way that this is all happening, because it shows that, you know what, yes, it works great. Yes, it's, you know, we have a great website, we stand behind it, it works really well. But sometimes if you encounter difficulties like this is where it's a good time to, you know, say, ooh, I don't think this is working properly. Don't wait, just give us a call at the contact center. Okay, all my colleagues in the contact center are super nice people. I know, of course, I'm going to say that they're my colleagues, but in this case, it's actually true. Okay, we're a whole bunch of nice people. We're happy to help you. This is what we do day in and day out. Okay, you're not going to disturb us. Our job is to answer the phone. All right, and our telephone number will be supplied to you in the presentation that is part of the package that you will receive at the end here. And therefore, don't be shy. If you encounter any difficulties, just give us a call, okay? That's what we're here for. We're going to do our best to help. Okay. All right, so Yasmin, I can see your screen. So notice here, I can see Redwood Acres, Redwood Recycling, Redwood Products, Redwood 3. So it's, you know what, I think I'm going to be okay with this. So at this point, now, notice there are 2 pages. In this case, I'm not going to go through all the pages because this is a demo. In real life, if you see 2, 3, 5 pages of names, I would recommend that you go through them all just to make sure that you don't see anything that looks too similar to your name. Once you're satisfied with this, and this is what the message is telling you, can you scroll up just a little bit, Yasmin? So notice here, oops, just under the search results, it says, if you think your name is sufficiently distinctive in your line of business or your area, I'm just, can you just scroll up for me? I got this little chat thing that appeared. Okay, yeah, just scroll back down for me, please. There we go. So sufficiently distinctive in your line of business or area, continue to the next step. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's scroll down, Yasmin, click on the next button, and then we're going to be almost ready to go. Legal element and capitalization. So when you enter the proposed legal name, okay, the proposed legal name, you're going to need a legal element. Incorporated, limited, okay, in French, limité, incorporé. Doesn't matter what you choose, okay, because, and again, you can click on that little I button if you can do that for me, Yasmin, okay. All legal elements have the same meaning. Choose the legal that you element that you prefer. Thank you, Yasmin. You can close that. So basically what that means is that you enter the one that you want. Okay, whether it's Inc. Incorporated, doesn't matter. You choose the one that fits for you. It all has the same meaning. Okay, now there is also the possibility to have a name in the other official language here. I think we're going to skip that part for now, okay? But just know that there is no extra charge if you decide. It's optional. You don't have to. But if you say, I want to have Cafe Redwood and Redwood Coffee Shop because you're in a bilingual area, that's where you would actually click and enter the corporation name underneath, okay? Then underneath, there's this place here called the context information. Now you'll notice it doesn't say optional. It doesn't say that it's mandatory. It says recommended. The reason why it's saying that is because the more context you can provide to my colleagues from the examination unit who will be reviewing your application, the easier it's them to make a well-informed decision about whether or not they're going to accept your name. So do you have to? No. Is it a good idea to provide extra context about your name? Absolutely. So that's what I have to say about this particular part. Now, because this is a demo, obviously and it's a little time consuming, we're just going to scroll down that part. Oh yes, supporting documents. Now, this is not always necessary, especially not when it's your first request for an incorporation. But if you ever need to join extra documentation, that's where you would do it. It's got to be a PDF file, okay, in the supporting document area where you can attach a document for, again, related to the name. Let's click on next, and we're going to go to the next step. Now, you're going to get to that part here where you can actually enter your payment information. You'll notice there's a little label at the top. Can we just scroll back up very quickly, Yasmin? Thank you. Have your card ready. Okay. I've seen many instances of people calling the contact center and telling me, I was just about to pay and I lost my wallet, and by the time I found it, it timed out and then I lost all the information. Before you click on next, when you see that message, get the wallet, okay? I know it sounds silly, but you would be surprised of the number of people actually call me to tell me that they had the issue. And when that happens, unfortunately, we have to start over. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. So let's scroll down, okay? And click on the proceed to payment button. Now, when I do this, it's going to tell me, all right, are you sure that you're already okay with all this? Because you cannot change that portion of the application. At this point, if you get heart palpitations and you're like, you know what, I'm not too sure, it's okay. You can just click on no, go back, verify again. If we're good to go, you're confident, no problem. We click on yes, and we move on to the next step. All right, so now this is a demo. We won't have to do it here, but in real life, you would actually enter your payment information and you click on submit payment. Now, when you see this information here, okay, good idea. You're going to receive a confirmation in your inbox, but it's always a very, very good idea to take note of that transaction date, the invoice number, that sort of thing, just in case for some reason, maybe you made a mistake entering the email, you didn't realize it. It happens once in a while. Take a screenshot of this or just write down the information so that we can trace it back later on if we have to. All right, so we're just going to scroll down here. We're good to go. We're happy. Then we get to the second part of the custom incorporation, which is really your articles. Your articles is how is your corporation going to be structured? Okay, so we had a discussion about this last week. We talked a lot about establishing and the importance of establishing the structure of your company, of your business, and this is where we're going to get it done. So the first part here is the province or territory of the registered office. So in this case, it's going to be Ontario. Now, notice on the right side, okay, there's another gray button here, which is called the tip button. So just like the little blue dot, thank you very much. So you will be asked later to provide the full address of the corporation's registered office. However, the articles of incorporation will only show the province or territory where the registered office is situated. So that's why you have to choose the province where your registered office is going to be situated. So again, just like the little blue dots with the eye, when you see the tip button, if you're not sure about this, click on there. You're going to be able to get more information. Now, we get to the other part here, which is about the description of classes of shares. Okay, so one class of shares, two classes of shares. Again, if you're not sure, you can click on those little blue buttons. But before we go any further in this, okay, I'm going to let Aliya comment on the descriptions of classes of shares.
So I think, you know, one of the things you want to keep in mind is what type of shares you'll want. And if you're of more than one or two classes of shares, this is where you really want to call a professional and think through, are those shares voting? Are those shares restricted? What are those restrictions on share transfers, which Martin is just going to talk about next. And so make sure that as your company or your structure gets a little more complicated, that you're actually consulting with lawyers and accountants, because those two are really going to be able to structure your company accordingly.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aliya. And that's what we tell people also in our contact center when they give us a call, right? Go ahead and read the information that is available on our website. If you're in the middle of the process, you click on these little blue dots with the eyes and you can get more information. If you're okay with this, you're confident, wonderful. When you're in doubt, absolutely, then it's time to consult the legal expert to make sure that you've got this down pat. Okay, and then we scroll down. So let's say that this is going to be quite a simple company for now. So let's choose one classes of shares and then restrictions on share transfer. So you'll notice here, it even says predefined text for private corporations. Most corporations that don't publicly sell shares include this provision. So we're going to choose this option to make clear that the corporation is a private and is not subject to filing requirements with the provincial securities commissions. So if you're comfortable with that, you can choose it. Again, more information available through the tips button and the little blue dots. Aliya, do you have anything to add to for the restrictions?
Again, if you're putting in your own text, make sure you've consulted a professional or you know what you're doing before you put in your own text. I said this last week, the articles of incorporation are not set in stone. You can make amendments after the fact. So don't freak out if something is not perfect. You can always change those articles.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, and then we move down to the maximum number of directors. So we had a question a little earlier about the minimum number of directors. So again, unless we are a distributing corporation, the number of directors is usually minimum is 1. Maximum by default is 10, but you can have more, you can put in less. It's really up to you, and it depends on the needs of your corporation. Aliya, do you have anything to add to that for the minimum maximum number of directors?
No,
We're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And then restrictions on business. So actually we can click on the tip button there, Yasmin, if you don't mind. So basically it says here, like, it's pretty straightforward. Most corporations do not provide any restrictions and simply select none. Okay, but if for some reason you want to limit the commercial activities of a corporation, then you can add the preamble such as the business of the corporation shall be limited to the following, and then you can go ahead. And again, it's one of those things where if you need extra information about this, it's always a good idea to consult a professional. Of course, it says here most people will just put none. If you're comfortable, confident with that, then we just put none, and we move on to the next one, which are other provisions. Okay, so other provisions. Do I have anything to add to my articles of incorporation, to the structure of my corporation that is not already covered by what we already discussed? Aliya, do you have anything to add to other provisions?
As you think about other provisions, just make sure that if you're unsure, consult a professional to make sure you've got the right types of other provisions. There's a section that says, I would like to insert my own text. Some companies may want to do that. So just make sure you know what you're doing.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Aliya. And then we scroll down to incorporators. So incorporators is, well, the person incorporating. Okay, so sometimes an incorporator could be another body corporate. So if you're incorporating, now I cannot speak for the province, at the federal level, a federal corporation could incorporate another federal corporation. Now, most of the time, it can simply be an individual. So we're just going to do that here. So we're going to click on Add Individual and just go ahead, Yasmin. There we go. So put in the name. Next. And there we are. Okay, and of course, if you need more information, you see those hyperlinks up there. Can we just scroll back up like one notch, Yasmin? Thank you. So under incorporators, you see a few hyperlinks in that text, right? Again, if you're not sure, you can click on that and just make sure that you understand what's going on. And again, if unsure, consult a professional. Underneath, you have the effective date. Now, most people won't have to touch this, okay? The effective date is the date at which the corporation is going to be created officially, and usually that's today's date. So if you incorporate today, it's today's date, and tomorrow, it's tomorrow's date. Some people can select a date in the future, and sometimes for some reason that needs to be done. That's not an issue. The only thing I would recommend is to ensure that you select the right date, because I've seen a few times people calling us and saying, I don't understand. I've incorporated yesterday, and I cannot find my corporation anywhere online on your website. So after digging a little bit and finding the corporation in our own database, then we realized that this person mistakenly incorporated for not in 3 days, for instance, but in a year, right? And that can always be changed, but it's a bit of a complicated process, and it's a little more expensive too. So push comes to shove, it's easier just to make sure that you have the right effective date in there, okay? And I just saw a question popping up as I was giving those explanations, which is, can you backdate? No, you cannot backdate a corporation, okay? It's either today or in the future. Let's click on next. All right, so now we get to this part where we need to sign the form. So this form, you see here it says Form 1 Articles of Incorporation. Is it possible? Is it going to work if we click on that, Yasmin? Thank you. So basically, by law, you're required to take that form that's just about to appear on Yasmin's screen. Yeah, download PDF for the purpose of, okay, so this one won't work, but in real life, you're going to click on that little hyperlink over there, and you're going to see the PDF file appearing. You're going to print it, and you're going to sign it, okay? Or get the person who is the incorporator, okay, the official incorporator, to sign it. You don't need to send it to us, okay, because we're going to have our own copy. But by law, you are required to print it, sign it, and keep it in your own corporate records. And once we have done that, we click on the next button. All right, now it's time to, first of all, put a registered office address, and secondly, we're going to look at the board of directors. Now, registered office address, okay, it has to be a physical address. So a place where, so it's not just a PO box. Why? Because documents need to be able to be served to you legally served to you at that address. So that's the first part. Now, this is public information, okay? Addresses of directors, addresses of registered office address of the corporation is public information. It's available on our website, and it's going to stay available even after a corporation is dissolved. So I don't know about you, but personally, if I have a corporation, maybe providing my home address is not something I'm super comfortable with because it's going to be public. That's perfect. In this case, just make sure that you provide another address. So some people will use, provide their lawyer's address, their accountant address if they offer, or other companies will offer that service where they can receive documents for you. And if that's so it can be another address than your home address if you operate from home, as long as it is not a PO box and a place where documents can be legally served to you. Aliya, do you have anything to add to that? Good to go? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So put in that address, and now should general correspondence from Corporations Canada be sent to a different address, you can add an additional address, but it's not mandatory to do so. So we're just going to leave that be for now. And then we're going to add the directors. So remember what we said at the beginning when we were answering questions, directors, at least 1 out of 3 that is a Canadian resident. If we have more than 3, then 25% that are Canadian residents. So we just put in the information regarding directors, same kind of idea with the address, public information. So put in, if they're not comfortable having their home address divulged, that's okay, as long as the documents can be served to them. It could be the same address as the corporation, or it could be a different address, as long as they can receive those documents and make sure that documents can legally be served to them. And once we have all this entered, we're just going to scroll down a little bit, and we're ready for the authorization. So again, we enter the name, the telephone number, and then we're just going to click on the next button. Same kind of idea. So the first one was the Articles of Incorporation. Now that second document is the initial registered office address and the first board of directors. Again, you don't need to receive it, but you need to print it out, sign it, keep it in your corporate records. Once I've done that, I want to confirm that yes, indeed, my Form 1 and my Form 2, okay, Articles of Incorporation and the registered office address and the first board of directors, I've got them, I've signed them, I'm confirming that. So I just put a little check mark like Yasmin just did, and then we're good to go, okay? And we click on the next button. All right, reminder notice. Very quickly, there's a few things that you have to make sure of when you have a corporation registered at the federal level. Okay? You have to make sure that you file your annual returns every year. And if there are changes to the board of directors, changes to your registered office address, we have to be notified of those within 15 days. Okay. Now, as far as the annual returns are concerned, not to be confused with your tax return. They're not as complex. It's just a few questions to make sure that your corporation is still active and to make sure that you are compliant. Super easy to do. Takes 5 minutes. Some people would rather ask their accountants or lawyers to do it. A lot of people do it by themselves. That's entirely up to you. But if you forget, for more than 2 years, legally, Corporation Canada has to dissolve your corporation. And that's where it gets a little frustrating for people because sometimes they just forget. So why am I explaining all this? Well, these are things that you need to know. And also because you can choose to receive those reminders. Instead of receiving by mail, you can receive them by email. And that's why under reminder notice, Yasmin actually put a check mark besides receive email annual return, reminder notices, and other updates relevant to business corporations at, and then you're going to see your email address there. And if there's additional email addresses that you want to send this to just to get all your bases covered, you can just click on add here and add more email addresses as well. Once we're good to go with that, we click on the next button, and believe it or not, we're almost done. So step 7 is about the extra-provincial registration. So I think that's something that we might have mentioned last week, and I'm just going to mention it again, okay? When you have a corporation that even if it's registered at the federal level, okay, you still have to let your province or your territory, if you're in one of the territories, know that you are going to operate a business, okay, that is federally registered on their territory. And therefore, that has to be done with the province. Now, there's a few provinces where that process can be done directly from our website because we have a partnership with them. If you're one of these provinces, this is great. You can do it right then and there. If not, it's not the end of the world. You just get in touch with your province and you say, hey, I just incorporated federally, but I know I have to register with you guys. What do I do? And then they can guide you through the steps, okay? Now, because not everyone in Canada has access to that part of our website, we're just going to skip that one, okay, and proceed to payment. And we click on next. All right. One thing that I want to mention over here, there's a regular service and there's an express service. And I think that Yasmin touched upon that last week, but I do want to reiterate this, okay? Now notice that it says here under regular service, we will review your request within 1 business day of submission and will respond by, okay, and then we have a date. Now, bear in mind that's an estimate, okay? It's like don't call at 8:09 a.m. and say, I haven't received anything. It's possible that it's going to take a little longer, but that's usually, okay, 1 business day is our usual turnaround time. Now, if for whatever reason something's going on, you need that ASAP and time is of the essence, there is an express service. And with the express service, you're going to pay extra, okay? It's going to be $100 more, but you can receive it in 4 business hours. So you don't have to use the express service, okay? If that 4 business hours is not necessary for you, don't bother with that. But if it's time is of the essence, just know that the express service is available. Just make sure that you put the check mark besides I require express service. All right. Now, same kind of idea, right? Make sure that you've got your wallet and your credit card ready to go. And then we simply click on proceed to payment, and that's going to take us to the last payment page. Again, if I'm all ready to go, I'm happy, I'm confident, I click on the yes button, and it's going to take us to our third-party website, which is Moneris, where you can enter the payment information. Once you're good to go, process transaction. Now, if we can scroll down just a little bit, Yasmin, okay, you're going to receive you're going to see that transaction record appearing. Really important, again, to either take a screenshot of that or write down, especially the one that you want to write down is the order ID at the bottom. Okay, always select the order ID at the bottom so that we can actually find that information later. And also, if you need a receipt, okay, click on email receipt to make sure that you do receive that email. And once we're done with that, we click on continue. Okay, the other really important thing here, again, you're already going to receive this by email, but just in case, always a good idea, because I've seen people say, I've lost the email, now I'm stuck, cannot find what we're looking for. It's long and tedious to trace back like the actual application. There's something called the request ID number. The request ID number is what we use in our contact center to find your request. If you provide us with the request ID number, there's a there's like a 99.9% chance that we're going to find your request in no time at all and being able to provide you the information that you need about it. Okay, if you need to get in touch with us. Okay, so the request ID number, always write it down, even if technically you should receive it by email, just in case, good idea to write it down. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Do we have anything? Can you just scroll down? Yasmin, I think that's pretty much it, right? Yep, that's pretty much it. Now, what I'm going to do now, so thank you very much for that, Yasmin. What I'm going to do now is actually share my screen with you. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. Just give me 1 second over here. There we are. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what happens once you incorporate it. So I'm just going to ask you to bear with me for 1 second so that I can show you what happens once you go through the entire incorporation process. So first of all, so that's the first message that you're going to see before anything gets approved or accepted. You're going to see, okay, your request for a certificate of incorporation under Canada Business Corporations Act has been received. Your request number is this. Okay, so this is just to let you know, hey, we received your incorporation request. We're comfortable, like we've got it, and we're working on it. That's the first step. Once your incorporation certificate is ready to be provided to you, you're going to receive that second email. Okay, that contains the 2 PDF files. The first one is your certificate of incorporation. This is another example here. So the first one is for your certificate of incorporation. So articles of incorporation, and then the certificate will be provided as well. So that's the first thing that you're going to see here. And then the other thing is called the information sheet. Now that information sheet is really handy to keep around because it contains all the basic information, including your corporation number and the corporation key. Now remember I said at the very beginning, the corporation key is what I said the online filing center is the place where you can make changes to your list of directors, changes of your registered office address, things like that. Or Aliya was mentioning sometimes if you need to change your articles, you're going to make an amendment. For all of these transactions, you need to use what we call a corporation key, which is like a password, okay? So make sure that you keep that corporation information sheet handy, because to do all of these things, you're going to need your corporation key. Okay. And the last email that you're going to get, usually a few days after you get those, is that other email that's going to say, all right, you're incorporated, what's next? Okay, so it gives you your business number so that you can deal with the Canada Revenue Agency. Okay, and it's also talking about the next steps that need to be done after you incorporate it. Okay, so that's also a very important email that you want to keep handy because it is going to provide you with a lot of useful information. About the business number with CRA, Stefanie, did you have anything specific to add to that?
I think I would just, I think I said it last week, but just to touch on it again, that number that you're looking at right now when your accountant or bookkeeper potentially files your corporation's first tax return, that's the number that's associated with the tax return. And when you're looking at your corporate tax balance, for example, it's all associated with that. The key letter in that particular number being the C, which is for corporation. If you end up opening up a payroll account, you'll have the exact same number, except it'll say RP and then your HST, GST will be RT. So just, you know, something to look out for. You're going to have the exact same number for 3 different potential filings that you'll have to do with the CRA.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Stefanie.
No problem.
And that's pretty much in a very small nutshell the entire process from beginning to end. There's just a few more things that we want to mention. If you thought that this presentation was useful to you, maybe you would like to see it again. Maybe you can think of other people who would be interested in it. Okay, so we do have some what we call client engagement sessions. Okay, and again, it's a 1-hour stakeholder engagement session, so it's pretty much similar to what we've done today. And it's going to be done across the country in English and French. And therefore, if you know other entrepreneurs who could benefit from this, we encourage you to join us. We do have dates. It's going to be in English, okay? November 5th and November 10th. En français, ça va être le 12 novembre. 12 of November in French. If you are interested in those, okay, you can just get in touch with the organizers of this session, provide them with your information, and they'll be able to provide you with the get you in contact with us so that we can register you for those sessions. The other thing as well, we also have what we call a user research panel. So that's in terms of having your voice heard and participating in the future development of our products and services. So it's based on your availability and your interest, okay? And again, if you would like to take part in those research panels, get in touch with the organizers of that session, and they will be able to put you in touch with us so that we can get you to participate. And like I was mentioning, it's going to be, of course, aligned with your availability, your interest, right? And research panels, we're looking for professionals, entrepreneurs. There's going to be agencies across Canada, so it's also a very interesting experience. And that's what I had to say. I know we have, I think, about 12 minutes left. I'm not sure, do we want to proceed with more questions?
We do have some rapid fire questions, so I'm going to take it away on this one. Quick question. If I don't want to use my home address or a lawyer's address, are there other options available to me? Can I use a friend's business? What other options are there?
From a Corporations Canada perspective, as long as there is a physical address where documents can be served to you, it could be, yes, if your friend has a business and they don't mind. There's no, from our standpoint, I don't see any issue with that, as long as you make sure that you can get the documents in a reasonable time frame that are sent to that address. I'm not sure if the rest of the panel has any comment to make about that.
I'm going to move forward. There's some questions still about the difference between a federal registration and a provincial registration. Is there a benefit to incorporate federally versus provincially, and does a company have to do one before the other?
If you're going to incorporate at the federal level, usually the normal process is incorporate at the federal level, and then you will register that federal corporation with the process. As we mentioned at the beginning, your name is going to be protected across Canada. If you register federally, it also gives you international recognition. And also, if you're a member of a professional order, always get in touch with your professional order to see if they have specific requirements. So if they have to, if some people will say, no, you have to be provincial. Some professional orders will say, no, you have to be federally incorporated. Aliya, Stefanie?
Aliya, are you with us still?
Sorry, was I talking to myself? I think you covered it, Martin. I think, you know, we talked about it at the beginning of the session. It really just depends on where you're doing business.
Thank you. Got a question here. Can you use a single incorporation for various business activities to run multiple businesses, or to run multiple activities such as management consulting to business coaching and cosmetic manufacturing? So as I read the question, it looks like it's still one business, multiple business activities. Can you use the same incorporation?
From a Corporations Canada standpoint, I would say I think there's a lot of ramifications here that I would verify in terms of like, do you need permits to run some of these business that you might want to verify also with the various level of authorities. Like if you have a restaurant, you're going to need permits for that. Like if you have other types of businesses, if you have a hairdresser's business, there might be other types of permits that you need. But as far as having one corporation that is an umbrella for a number of businesses, from a Corporations Canada standpoint, I don't believe that this would cause an issue. Aliya, Stefanie?
I think for me, kind of how I talked about a little bit earlier was you just have to be very careful. It's one thing if, for example, your overarching industry is beauty and cosmetics, and you're manufacturing, but you're also coaching to some extent, influencers, for example, or something like that, and you're offering management services to others in the beauty industry. That's different, 3 different types of revenue channels under the same umbrella of beauty and cosmetics is one thing. But if you're trying to run effectively 4 or 5 different types of businesses under one corporation, that's a little bit more complicated. And, just specifically from a tax perspective, how I talked about, being able to use losses and whatnot, you could find yourself in a precarious position in a situation like that. So me personally, I'd say probably not the best structure to have 3, 4, 5 different types of business activities under the one umbrella. But, I would say get a one-on-one with a professional to certainly discuss further.
I would
Thank
say
you.
you talked about the liability associated with it. So, if there's a chance that one of the businesses is more likely to get sued than the other ones, do you want to fence off those businesses from the liability of the first one? So, really think about your structure and how you're protecting each of the businesses or each of the business lines.
I think it boils down to what we were saying at the beginning, that, like I said, from a Corporations Canada perspective, it's not going to create an issue. But given all these other circumstances that were described, it's always a good idea to get in touch with your accountant, get in touch with a lawyer, invest in that professional help to make sure that you have the best possible structure that serves your purposes and your needs.
Thank you. This is a question relating to the name as you're entering your name. If there's a name that's very similar to yours, you're just not sure if you should proceed or take a stop, should somebody just give up if there's something too close, or is that when you should be talking to a lawyer?
We're never going to discourage you to talk to a lawyer. If you're not sure and you make the request, the worst that's going to happen is that your name is not going to be accepted as such, and you're going to receive a reply from a member of our examination team. We call those notice of deficiencies, and they're either going to say your name cannot be accepted as is, and there needs to be some other types of information that you need to provide us with so that we can either proceed with your name, or if you want to choose another name, now would be the time to do so. So no one at Corporations Canada is just going to say, sorry, we can't do that, and that's the end of it. Okay, that's not going to happen. We're going to get in touch with you. We're going to let you know this is not going to work. Give us more information, and so that we can either accept your name, or you can always decide at this point to choose another name and resubmit your request. And again, I insist, if you receive one of those and you're like, I'm not quite sure what they're saying in this email, okay, stop everything that you're doing. Give us a call. We're open from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. We're all super nice. Okay, we're going to be happy. English, French, doesn't matter. We're going to serve you in the official language of your choice, and we're going to take you through and explain to you what needs to be done so that you can get that extra information from our examiners.
Martin, I want to thank you so much for your presentation today. I know how difficult that was, that moment for you to pivot. I think you did it wonderfully. And Yasmin, for stepping in and driving the site. I think you are sort of an unsung hero today as well.
Yes, absolutely. She is.
And as well to our panelists for being here and sharing your voice. Aliya, Stefanie, Laura, thank you too for being with us today. This concludes part 2 of our session on demystifying incorporations. And I know we covered an awful lot of ground in these sessions, and thank you too for the presentation today. Following today, we are going to get you a copy of this recording so that you can go through it again. We're also going to share a bunch of other resources and tools that are going to help you around deciding whether or not incorporation is right for your company and how to go about that process. And speaking of resources, I just wanted to remind you that in addition to some of the COVID supports that are available, such as the Canada Emergency Business Account, Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance, the Business Credibility Availability Program, and the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, there's also an online tool that has been created by Innovation Canada that helps you find different programs for your business. And there's also an app by Canada Business from Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, which provides information on how to navigate some of the government services. And if you haven't already heard about the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub Ask, Give, Sharing platform, which is brought to you as well by the Forum for Women for Entrepreneurs, be sure to check this out. This platform is free and it's designed for women entrepreneurs and those who support women entrepreneurs to connect with others and learn more about what's going on in their communities. So whether you're in a rural community or on the East Coast, West Coast, this app brings us all closer together, allowing us to share best practices, resources, and tools to navigate through some of these unprecedented times. And finally, Martin, I just want to give another plug to the Corporations Canada client engagement sessions that are happening. We will be sending those out as well. On behalf of everyone at WEKH, thank you for joining us. We're going to try and get to the rest of your questions in our follow-up communications. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience, and we wish you all a really great week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.